Baby Boomer fans, we are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River, make sure you are wide awake, and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello, 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 people, viewers, men, women, children, wherever you are. We are so grateful that you are joining us to hear and learn about another little nugget of history from the 1950s. And it's just so much fun, especially when you lived in the 1950s, to hear stories like that.
Right. Hello, folks. Please do look at that purple banner down below the screen. It's www.wildthewindmillwatch.com. Please go there for all sorts of information about this chat and about the little book in the upper corner there of your screen that spurred this chat. The site, the website, will give you information about previous chats, 240 of them to be exact. It will also tell you about the 49 different vendors we have. It will tell you where the authors might be signing books and so many other interesting things. So please go there. Right now, though, we're going to get down to 1950s rural America. Our guest has had an almost lifelong involvement with the printed word. Allan Burke's association began at age 11 at a weekly newspaper, the Carthage News, in his native town of Carthage, South Dakota. He double majored in journalism and printing management at South Dakota State University, where he graduated in 1970. Allan is a retired weekly newspaper publisher who serves as the volunteer curator of the Braddock News Letterpress Museum, located on the grounds of the South Central Threshing Association, Incorporated, at Braddock, North Dakota. He's married to Leah, his marital partner, and his business partner. They reside in Linton, North Dakota. Allan, we welcome you to this 1950s Fun Chat.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So let's begin this 1950s chat by going back to the mid-1400s. What happened during that time that made a large impact on the world? And how did this incident personally affect you for so many years later?
Well, in 1452, Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press. It's mistakenly said sometimes that he invented printing. He didn't do that. He invented the printing press by converting a wine press, and he printed the first printed edition of the Bible, which of course had an enormous impact on the world. Mm-hmm. And his technology that he developed, which we call letterpress printing, took off and spread around the world. And interestingly, printing technology did not change a whole lot from 1452 until about the 1950s and 1960s.
Oh, my goodness.
And I always say if Mr. Gutenberg were to come back to Earth, he would understand most of letterpress printing. He would not understand electricity, motorized equipment, but he would understand the mechanics of most letterpress presses.
Isn't that amazing that same technology lasted centuries? Wow.
Indeed.
He was sharp. He developed something that was very appropriate and long lasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he had an enormous impact, and we honor him, or perhaps blame him for our woes. But he was a tremendous inventor.
Yes. Okay. So at age 11, that's a young age for employment. So how did you, or why did you even begin employment at that age?
Well, I think probably we didn't have child labor laws in Carthage, but I started my neighbor, Warren Anderson, was the printer's devil or printer's apprentice at the Carthage News. He was 3 years older than me. And through him, I got a job raking the leaves at Chellis and Elaine Munger's house in Carthage. They were publishers of the paper. And I did that, and I did some other odd jobs. And eventually, probably when I was between 12 and 13, I started working regularly at the Carthage News. And I did everything from sweeping the floor to melting lead and casting cuts or graphics for ads for the newspaper, and ran hand-fed job press where we printed envelopes and napkins and funeral cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran the big newspaper press as well, and worked there through high school, and a couple of years in college. I came back and managed the paper while the Mungers took summers off.
How do you go about melting lead?
Well, actually, Gutenberg melted lead to cast type when he for printing the Bible. He printed hundreds of each letter so that he could hand set the Bible, and so lead was used up until the end of the letterpress era, and you could cast images for ads. That's how graphics for ads were done. And then also you cast bars of lead called pigs that were fed into the linotype or intertype, which were typesetting machines. So lead, was kind of the lifeblood of letterpress printing all those years.
When you mentioned ads, as a business person, we needed to, and when I was younger, we needed to advertise. And of course, a lot of times we would advertise in the newspaper. Right. Can you tell me what, in your mind, what would have made an effective ad? Was it the amount of linear space? Was it the amount of white space? How would a business person have gotten their message across?
Well, there's several ways. I mean, for an ad, usually less is better. A dramatic image and not a lot of text is kind of one of the theories. But in weeklies, we subscribed to a service that provided molds or flongs, they were called, where you could cast images. So if the flower shop wanted a bouquet of roses in their ad, you would find that mat or flong and cast it in lead and put it in their ad. But images were a big thing in ads, and that became, as years went by the mid 1800s and later, you saw more graphics in advertising if you look back through old newspapers.
This might be jumping ahead way far, but when did color print come to be in advertising?
Well, I'm not really an expert on that, but I suppose became more common in the 1900s. There was probably some done prior to that, but color ads were done in daily papers. Well, I'm not sure when that really took off, probably in the 40s and 50s, something like that. Weekly papers, like the ones Leah and I were involved in, we didn't have color photos until December of 2008. So it was costly to prepare your newspaper press and do all the pre-press stuff for color printing. So it lagged behind. But I'm really not an expert on when dailies started using color.
So tell us about the term printer's devil and how did that come about? What's it involved to be a printer's devil?
Well, it just is a printer's apprentice. And I should have studied that before the show a little bit better because there's quite a bit on the internet about printers' devils. But,
Ah,
they teased the going way back, probably in the 1500s even. Uh, Kids would work in a print shop doing the more menial tasks,
mhm.
and they teased them as devils, but
Mm.
um, I think there's more to that than what I can recite right here. But basically, a printer's devil was a printer's apprentice. And we still refer to college students that come to our museum from NDSU every fall as the little devils or the printer's devils. But
That's
uh,
interesting.
So novice.
yeah,
Um, shucks. Okay, go ahead. I lost my train of thought. Go
uh,
ahead, Jackie.
Oh, all right. Anything more to say when you during your early years, or do you want to continue on with talking about the progress of printing, either from before the 50s or during the 50s?
right. Well, in the 50s, and I started it around 1960 or so as a kid. Um, the technology was pretty much identical wherever you went. If you worked in one print shop, you could go to any other English speaking country on the planet and do exactly the same thing. And letterpress printing was a craft in that everything down to the hand movements that you used for setting type and
Hmm.
how you operated presses. That was just kind of universal in the industry. Where uh, with modern technology, there's no single way to do anything or no right way to do anything. You can do it 70 different ways on a computer. Um, but that's a major thing that happened with uh, the technological change that came in the 60s and then 70s, and it's gotten more sophisticated ever since.
Was it popular in those early days of newspaper printing and publishing that the newspaper uh, business was generational? From if your grandfather was a publisher, was your dad a publisher, and you became a publisher?
I would say that was um, pretty common. Chellis Munger, under whom I was trained and worked originally, his father was the publisher of the Carthage News and a printer,
Uh-huh.
and his uncle was. But the Mungers had daughters and who got married and moved away. And I think their hope was that I would take over the Carthage News sometime,
Mhm.
or Warren Anderson. But, towns were shrinking, and Carthage probably had a population of maybe 350 when I started working there.
Hmm.
And, now it's fewer people than that. The newspaper closed, I think, in the 1980s. But the generational thing is, I know a lot of people in the newspaper business who were third or fourth generation
Wow.
uh,
Yes.
publishers,
Well,
and printers the same way. I think that uh,
you
is
all
common.
talk the same language then when you get together. Maybe.
Yes, well, it's sort of cult-like in a way. I
Yeah.
mean, there were never, ever very many printers on the planet. And like linotype operators, the automated way of setting type in lead, there were, very few of those. And so printers to this day, you work in a print shop, even though it's a whole different thing, all electronic and everything, it's still other people don't know about it. And so if you're going to talk printing, you got to find another printer.
Yeah, I guess so. So were you ever a paper boy?
I delivered Carthage. The nearest daily was the Huron Daily Plainsman, and I was a plainsman carrier. I think it was 7 days a week then. And then I also delivered the Sunday Minneapolis Tribune in Carthage, and did that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I think.
Okay.
Were you taught as a paper boy? Were you taught how to handle the paper, or how to take it to the subscriber, or did you throw it up on their yard, or how did you do that?
Well, Carthage being a small town, I had the Plainsman. I think the Tribune too provided a canvas bag with their logo on it, and I'd strap it to the side of my bicycle, and I delivered the paper on my with my bicycle. And I didn't very often throw the newspaper at a house, which in bigger towns you would have had to do that, but there weren't that many. I don't know how many on my route, 50 or something, or fewer than that maybe. And so I got off my bike and took it up and sometimes knocked on the door. And of course, a lot of the subscribers were elderly people. And I was not a very efficient carrier because they all wanted to visit or give me a chocolate chip cookie or something. So it took me a long time to get around my route. And I never had any complaints, but I would think that the people at the end of the route, maybe they got used to getting their paper later in the day. But
That's neat.
Okay. So nowadays, are there paper boys, or is the paper mailed?
Well, I don't know whether there are paper boys. I don't think they're. I'm not sure, but I don't think the Bismarck Tribune has any. They used to have 3 paper boys in Linton, where I live. Our population's about 1,100 here. But I'm not really in touch with that. Papers were mailed, like the Carthage News was always mailed every week, and dailies. They would have delivery boys, where now, if you got the neighboring daily, you would probably get it in the mail because they don't have carriers. But mail is still a good way to distribute a weekly newspaper. Of course, there are online editions and all of that, but newspaper readers, and perhaps readers in general, still, even younger people, like to have a copy in their hands. But that's kind of because of costs and so on. That's kind of going by the wayside.
Okay.
Allan, what was your favorite as a newspaper carrier? What was when you look at the paper? What was your favorite section of the paper?
I would have to say my section always has been the obituaries. And because of the obituaries have not gotten better over time, but years ago there was more information included and less fluff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I started reading them when I was in, I don't know, junior high or high school. And I was just fascinated by the histories of people. And so in our newspapers, our rule as a joke was that if you ever drove through our county and slowed down, we wanted your obituary in our paper if you passed. And later on, the last 10 years we were in business, we started charging for obituaries, which I had grown up thinking was a sin. Probably was, I don't know. Probably pay for it later. But when you lose all your car dealers and retail advertising, you've got to have a source of revenue. And so we started doing that. And my fear was in our area, people are very conservative with their money. And my fear was if we started charging for obituaries, people would stop dying. But
no, that's not the way it goes.
That didn't happen. And actually, we had no resistance to it. We never had a complaint, actually, because we did the complete obituary and so on. But I think they're, very important information. A lot of other people say it was the sports section or the editorial or page or whatever, but that's kind of been a lifelong interest of mine.
Alan, when you got in some of these obituaries and knowing what you liked, you wanted a history lesson of this person and get to know them. Did you ever feel like you wanted to rewrite some of those obituaries and make them more interesting?
Well, the obituary policy varies from newspaper to newspaper. When we started charging for obituaries, we seldom tampered. My issue was the gross misspellings, and some funeral homes, the funeral director is very literate, and they have literate people working for them, and you never find errors. But a lot of times we might correct something, or we'd contact the funeral home. But when we started charging, we did not. We would still correct an error or double check with the funeral director, but dailies probably edited them, and it's different policy from different papers.
I have noticed over the years that the style is different. When I was younger, I remember reading the paper. This person died. They were the son or daughter of so-and-so. They were born here. They were baptized there. They were confirmed there, and they attended this church. You don't see that anymore.
Right. You don't see that, and you don't see the cause of death.
Yes, right.
We once received an award from the International or National Germans from Russia Heritage Association or Society for our complete obituaries. And one of the criteria they had was that you included the cause of death. And, usually it was provided. It's not something we would go out of our way to add, you know what I mean? But funeral homes tended to say Bob Smith died of a heart attack on a certain date or something, but you occasionally see it now, but it's not as common.
No. And if you look at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The whole idea of style has kind of gone out the window. I mean, what your observation is exactly right.
And if you look at a death certificate from North Dakota, you see a black line through cause of death. It's usually on the death certificate, but it's now been blacked out.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's a health. It may be a health reason for their ancestors to know this, so that they can be aware of, okay, our family has heart attacks, our family has whatever.
Yes.
So, it's kind of doing a disservice as well, I think.
Well, so if I'm perusing the obituaries and I don't really know this person, but it's kind of piqued my curiosity to read about them, why would I need to know the cause of death?
Maybe, I was going to say, maybe you don't, but their family might be interested in that.
Well, in the obituary. Not in a.
Well, because people like to know.
Right. Well, but what Jackie was saying, I always looked at the paper as a kind of an historical record. And so 25 years from now, people don't remember everything, or 50 or whatever. And so having, say, the cause of death in an obituary would be quite interesting to somebody's grandchild that becomes an adult and reads the obituary or something. And so like Jackie was saying, it was sort of a health thing, or it would be helpful to know what happened. And people are curious, readers want to know, but that's not as common as it was.
In
And
our,
even the information on the death certificate, I guess I hadn't encountered. Well, I never looked at death certificates as a rule, but facts are kind of becoming casualties every day in one way or
Yes,
another.
for
That would
sure.
be another example of it, I
That's
guess.
a good statement. Facts are becoming casualties.
Right. I'm afraid so.
so, Jackie, I know in some of the obituaries of our great grandparents,
That's good.
it mentions about their cause of death, and some of those health. Were some of those health issues?
Well, our great great grandfather died of the hiccups, is what it said. But
Oh my.
it was a week or so and it didn't stop. And my interpretation of that is the poor man had a heart attack because he was hiccuping for a week.
Right. Yes.
But it wasn't called the hiccups, though.
Well, that's where it's in the obituary.
Oh, I thought it had a different word.
What did you think it would be?
I can't think of it.
We'll talk about that later then.
Yeah, we'll go back a lot.
Yeah, obituaries are interesting.
Well, the early obituaries, I think some huge percent of the population died of what was called consumption.
Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
And I guess that's a respiratory problem, I think,
Yeah,
probably, or heart issue or something. So you wouldn't necessarily get medically accurate information from them. But a lot of people also died in farm accidents, or they were thrown from a horse or run over by a wagon or something. And so, you'd have details like that.
Or they fell off a roof and died. They were roofing the barn and they fell off. And their swing was damaged or something like that.
Old obituaries, like even in the early 1900s, but the late 1800s, they would have terrible information in the obituary. They'd say Sam Smith was the known town drunk and, fell off his horse, leaving the bar or something like that. I mean, just you'd be in court every day if you did that now. But
right, and that was the truth.
As
gross
people
details
read that,
apart.
As people read that, they probably shook their head. Yep, that's how I remember.
Got that right.
Well, and this is I'll kind of run afield here, I guess, but I never liked flowery obituaries, and there were some newspapers, especially weeklies, where they would write this glowing tribute in the obituary. They'd rewrite the obituary. That was their policy. And, you could never tell whether the person was probably the local drug dealer or something, but it sounded like Jesus's right-hand person when you read the obituary. I never liked, I don't think I should demean people, but I didn't like the flowery stuff, I guess.
Did most obituaries in days gone by, were they accompanied with a photograph of the deceased?
I'm not sure when that became common. Probably weekly papers, because they didn't have a way to make a printing plate from a picture, a typical rural weekly. And so if you wanted a picture, you'd have to send a photograph off to an engraver, which was usually the nearest daily paper. When I grew up, they were done at the Brookings Register in Brookings, South Dakota, which was a semi-weekly, actually. And we'd send the picture over on the bus and we'd get it back the next day. But we didn't run pictures with obituaries because of that. It cost money, but also it was the time involved in it. And because of the difficulty in making plates or converting a picture to a printable image, we always said that if Martians landed on Main Street on Monday, they'd have to wait for the next week's paper to have their picture in the paper, where today they'd want it in that week's paper. You know what I mean? You could do it. Back then you physically could not.
being involved with a weekly newspaper, did you get many columns from the local gossip lady who gathered all this information where?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I grew up with that. They were kind of almost townships, I think, but
Sure.
little communities. And then smaller towns that didn't have a paper, we'd have their column. We had Esmond and Vilas, I think, and Argonne and whatever. We had all kinds of social news. And people would ridicule that. They'd somebody from Minneapolis would look at a weekly paper from Carthage and they'd poke fun at the social news, like who had coffee with whom and who visited and all that.
Yeah.
Well, I love to point out the fact, and this had great readership. We kind of ran out of correspondence. I think we had one or two remaining, or three or four when we retired. But it was harder to get people to do that. And then plus there's nobody living out there in the country anymore. And kind of went away. But the amazing thing, which I take great delight in pointing out, is people put stuff on Facebook or social media that you wouldn't have put in the social column in the weekly paper. You know what I mean? And so the fact is that people like that. They like to ridicule it, but they like that. And so here in this modern electronic era that we're in, digital age, we have all this family information and who saw whom and what they had for dinner and whatever.
Yes. Did you have a homemaking column as well? Recipes and advice in the kitchen?
We had in our papers, we always had a cooking column, or we had different. We had one time 4 weeklies, and ended up with 2, but we had each paper had a cooking columnist, and very well read, and sometimes a cookbook would be done with their recipes, but we had some wonderful cooking columnists.
Good. Yeah, and I would think that would bring a lot of interest. Well, and did those cooking columns focus on ethnic foods in the area more so than any others?
Well, where we are, especially Linton in Emmons County, is part of the German-Russian area of North Dakota, South Central North Dakota. And our South Dakota papers too had a large German-Russian population, but it's probably a higher percentage here in Emmons County. So, and people like the old-fashioned German-Russian recipes, and so old cookbooks get reprinted, and our cooking columnists would do that. And of course, Prairie Public Television in Fargo has done numerous shows and documentaries on German-Russian cooking, ethnic cooking, but that's our ethnic group.
I love watching those on Prairie Public. There are some of the sweetest little ladies who are on those documentaries, baking or cooking.
Right. We were fortunate. Prairie Public did a one of their programs on Braddock News Letterpress Museum, and if you look on Facebook, Braddock News Letterpress Museum, you'll find 2 videos. One 7 minutes by Prairie Public. I think it was on Prairie Mosaic. They had 2 different shows that ran that for like 3 years, and then Will Beaton, a University of North Dakota student, who was heavy into film, did a documentary about the poetry chapbooks that we print, and that's also on YouTube.
Tell us about that. Those poetry chapbooks, you said?
Every fall, well, I help with the Hunter Times newspaper exhibit at Bonanzaville in West Fargo.
Sure.
And then we have the Braddock Museum, and Dr. Suzanne Kelly's publishing students print a poetry chapbook every year. And there's a NDSU Press does a contest for whose poetry they're going to publish. And we print the cover at the 100 Times in West Fargo on a hand-fed letterpress. The students do. And then in the fall, that's usually done in September. And then in October, they come to Braddock. And there's usually, I don't know, 10, 15 students. And they print the inside pages and do the bindery work for the chapbook. It's usually 32 pages.
As long as you're on things, volunteer opportunities, tell us more about those that you have participated in. And they all probably have to do with printing in some way.
Well, yeah, printing or history, I suppose. But we helped start the Braddock Museum, Printing Museum, with equipment that Leah and I donated from our print shop at Selby, South Dakota, when we had the Selby Record and later Selby Printing. And they built a building on the threshing grounds, and it's been doubled in size twice since then as we get more donations. But anyway, that is my hobby, and I volunteer there, which has led to creating a print shop or recreating the print shop at Fort Totten near Devil's Lake. And then we help with the 100 Times at Bonanzaville, and we did some work at the Sargent County Museum, and Foreman helped them with their printing display. And we helped Minot State University get their art department, helped work with them to get their letterpress studio going. So
is there a display?
That's my volunteerism.
Okay. Is there a display in Bismarck at that museum, at the State Museum?
There is not.
There's not. Well, there you go.
we have they've deaccessioned a couple things that we have in the museum, but there isn't a letterpress exhibit, at least currently, in the Heritage Center.
So tell us about the videos that if people are interested in further educating themselves. The features the Printing Museum, which can be found on YouTube.
Right. Well, the one that Prairie Public did is just pretty much on the Braddock Museum and the equipment that we have there. And that's 7 minutes, I think. And the longer one, I don't know what it is, 30 minutes or so, Land of the Sunlit Ice is the title of it. And it was the poet laureate of North Dakota at that time, his chapbook, Larry Woiwode, who's now passed away. But that was the first one we did. And Will Beaton, a student at UND, made this wonderful documentary about the chapbook process, and had footage from the 100 Times as well as from the Braddock Museum.
Allan, we're nearing the end of our chat, but I'm curious to know, when you are at the museum and people come through, or wherever you're at, and people recognize you as having been a long-time printer, publisher, are there any great stories that people share with you about their experiences in printing and publishing?
Well, yes, I'm trying to, not sure I can bring one up, but at the 100 Times, being in West Fargo, we get lots of people. We operate it like 3 times during the year. In fact, we'll be there the 4th of July. We're going to reprint the Declaration of Independence in its approximate original size. But anyway, we get, I don't know, hundreds of people over the day or the 2-day show, whatever it is there. And you always get a few people that either worked at a daily newspaper or a weekly, or their grandfather had one, or their parents did, or whatever. And so that's always fun, and I enjoy that. And printers, and they like to see the stuff again and talk about it, or they remember it. So we always get, in Braddock as well, we'll get, a handful of former newspaper people or former printing people.
Yeah. Well, what a camaraderie you all must have together when you get together.
There should be a secret handshake, but I don't think we have one. But
okay. Thank you so very much, Allan, for being our guest today. This has been Mr. Allan Burke, who just has a wonderful story of printing and publishing, starting all the way back with Johann Gutenberg in the 1400s, and along with Allan's experiences in that industry, and where are we now? But we're so grateful, Allan. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Good.
You're welcome. And those of you who are watching, we thank you also. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up button, and tell your friends, even your relatives, about this 1950s fun chat. Till next time, toodaloo.
Bye-bye.